Hello, thanks so much for joining us on InFocus Recouched. We've got a great lineup for you this week, including rules for fighting fair in the home. Yeah, really. We'll delve into the politically fraught topic of religious education in public schools, and we'll see an interview with a man who decided it'd be a great idea to take his wife and kids to live in a Bangkok slum for 12 years, as you do.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that. But first up, let's check out this Food in Focus segment on what might be the most Aussiest vegetable of all, beetroot.
Oh, mate.
Look, on the food segment, you just get to do lots of amazing things. Today I'm going to be munching, crunching and drinking my way through beetroot juice. Oh, it's really nice, but why? That's why we have Sue Rad to explain.
Hello,
our resident
James.
nutritionist. Thanks, Sue. What's special about beetroot juice? Actually, I thought it was going to be bitter.
Beetroot as a vegetable is amazing, as are all, mind you, fruits and vegetables. But beetroot, I mean, it's loaded in nutrients like vitamin C and magnesium and phytonutrients like betaine and so on. But the reason why it's under the spotlight at the moment is because it's got a lot of a substance called nitrate. Nitrate, which is also found widely in green leafy vegetables like kale and spinach and so on. But nitrate turns out to be quite an amazing substance because in the body it's converted to nitrite and then into something called nitric oxide. And the reason nitric oxide is so important is it makes your blood vessel walls relax, improves blood flow and lowers your blood pressure. So beetroot has amazing blood pressure lowering properties.
Now, I was pretty amazed when I was talking to Sue before and she says that I'll have 16 times more nitrate in my system, which ends up being twice as much nitrite, which means my blood vessels immediately from this point on, for the next 24 hours, are going to be softer.
Absolutely. Within a few hours, we notice reductions in blood pressure, and you can absolutely measure a difference after about 24 hours. Actually, in a big, what they call a meta-analysis and a systematic review where they looked at 16 of the best studies in the world on beetroot, they showed that on average it lowers your systolic blood pressure, that's the upper reading, by about 5%, but some other studies have shown between 5 to 10% reduction in your blood pressure, which is really significant and translates to about a reduction of 14% in the risk of stroke, James.
Well, I've just drunk enough, I know, to have that 24-hour effect working in my system from here on.
So you can get juices from health food stores, pre-juiced. You can buy them from malls or food courts. You can dress them up by adding ginger and apple if you want to sweeten it up. But you can also make your own beetroot.
Oh, okay.
Now, most people buy beetroot in a can, but I notice when you buy it in a can, most people just have a slice.
Yeah, that's all I have.
No one eats a whole
salad.
can.
Yes,
But if you cook it yourself, for example, have a load of this.
Oh, well, I've got a fork. Yep.
I made this for you earlier, James,
Oh, thank you.
especially for you. This is Greek-style beetroot.
Oh, Greek.
Have a taste.
Yeah.
Notice I've also, apart from the beetroot in there, I've used the leaves. So I've actually cooked up the leaves. They are delicious. I've also added, how could I forget to do that? Lemon juice and some extra virgin olive oil on top.
From Greece.
From Greece.
Wow.
And it's just delicious. And so you can eat a whole plate full.
Okay.
So it's not hard to cook.
No, I'm going to be very
Absolutely
careful.
delicious.
This is the leaf.
And be very, very careful. But you'll see how tender that is. And so
Do you
many
think I should
people
try it?
throw out those leaves. Have a go.
Here we go.
Be game. Can you get that lovely lemony flavour with the olive oil? It's just gorgeous, isn't it? And so soft that you can eat a massive plate full. Otherwise, you could just make raw beetroot into salads. I have an amazing recipe on my website.
That was
for beetroot. It is, isn't it?
It's amazing. Beetroot leaves.
Absolutely, yeah.
I thought it'd be
Beetroot,
bitter.
carrot and mint make a fabulous combination in a salad. So you can actually get the hard, raw beetroot. As long as you grate it very, very finely, it softens up to be edible. So you can even have it raw. So raw, cooked, juiced, it doesn't matter how much how you have it, as long as you're having it regularly, daily if you can. If not, get stuck into the dark leaf green leafy vegetables, and you're going to help to keep that blood pressure under control.
Now, can I ask you one critical question? I've been thinking about this. So, you know how some foods, when you cook it, it wrecks the goodness part. If you cook the beetroot, will it wreck the nitrate?
No.
Oh.
No, the nitrate's absolutely retained, and also many of those phytonutrients, which is why it's still so really, really
So
red.
you can just get the sunraysia or whatever, the beetroot juice from
You
wherever?
can get it that way. You can juice it yourself. You can buy it in a
Cook it
mall. You can
yourself.
cook it yourself. You can have a raw salad. just get into it. It is an amazing superfood.
You could find a good-looking Greek bloke to cook it up for you, especially at home.
You could do that too.
It's just amazing when you think about it. The amazing foods, beetroot, that's really, really good for you, and it's going to last in my particular body for the next 24 hours. I'm going to be feeling great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Dora. Look, I honestly thought that beetroot was just the thing that differentiated, you know, a normal burger from an Aussie burger.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's actually good for you. Who knew?
Yeah.
But still, don't get it on your clothes. Very messy.
Oh, yeah, true. Hey, stay with us. We'll take a quick ad break now, but we'll be back in a moment with more InFocus Recouched.
We live our lives running around, rarely stopping to ask ourselves where we're going and what our final destination is. In the end, our lives become little more than routine. Step beyond and discover a path that offers comfort, love and hope. Visit hopeoffer.com/step beyond or call 1300 300 389 for your free copy today.
Now, Ken, I know you and your wife, like, never fight because you guys have the perfect marriage.
Of course, Dora. Well, kind of, anyway.
But maybe you can still watch this next segment on how to handle conflict, you know, just in case you have a friend who needs your advice.
For a friend, yes, I'll watch.
Great to have you, Trafford.
Thank you.
Now, I got to tell you that every couple I've ever known occasionally, no, I'm not giving any secrets away here, but occasionally have disagreements. How should we handle those kind of disagreements in relationships?
How should we handle them? First up, we've got to have some differences. So I'm always a little worried if a couple says, oh, we're not fighting, I think, check that you're breathing. We've all got differences and we've got to deal with them. So I think there are some good ground rules. Number one, complain but don't blame.
Okay.
We've always got and we can complain to our partner in the sense that we can say, hey, sweetie, you said you were going to get some petrol in the car, you didn't, this creates a problem for us. We can complain about that. But blame is that we can't afford to blame. You are so much like your father, you're so much like your mother, you know, you are so hopeless. Yeah. So criticism has been discovered as one of the real reasons why couples actually move into a negative cycle in their relationship.
Okay.
So we've got to cut out criticism. So complain but don't blame. Number two, I think when we do feel ourselves getting a little bit agitated and excited, we need to learn to soothe. Okay. And there's some good research to tell us that couples, resilient couples, emotionally intelligent couples, have the ability, they learn the ability to soothe, to calm.
To escalate and then de-escalate.
Yes, it is. It's about taking the heat out of it. In fact, John Gottman in his research talked about repair attempt. James, you'll like these. It's repair attempt is any silly, crazy little thing we do that puts the brakes on, that slows it down. And he tells a story about this couple who were getting pretty agitated, and she put her hands on her hips and leaned forward and goes, and poked the tongue out of the husband. He knew it was coming up, and so he turned towards her and poked his tongue out as well, and they both started laughing, and they went, yeah, great. He said, that's a perfect repair attempt. And I think if couples get so...
It's like a circuit breaker, isn't it?
It is. It's just, yeah, white flag.
Let's get beyond ourselves. Let's go back.
Settle down. Look, if we can do that, it's fabulous. But see, the tricky thing is, for a lot of couples, they get so agitated and so wound up that a repair attempt is powerful. Hey, I'm sorry, can you just go straight over the top? I heard you say that last week. You know,
Right.
So we've got to, not only have we got to be able to give a repair attempt, put the brake on, but we've got to hear our partner.
It's almost like a
them on.
forgiveness thing, almost, isn't it? You got to be able to accept
yeah, hey, we blew it. Let's calm it. I think the other thing is we use a lot of I instead of you.
Okay.
We own it.
Right.
Rather than saying you made me do this. No. I own this.
Right.
James, the other one I think really works well is if we can picture the problem external to ourselves. It's not me and you.
Right.
It's here's the problem. You and I are on the same side. Let's address the problem.
Let's solve it.
So it's not we've got this problem and you're the problem.
Right.
It's no. Together. we've got the problem. I remember as a kid I was playing for this football team, and we ran out onto the game, but we'd won it already by a forfeit.
Okay.
They had a wrong player or something, and so we ran onto the field already winning the game. It was wonderful, I think if couples can say, hey,
like
we're in this together, here's a problem, let's address it, rather than the problem
and we can win
us.
together.
Yeah,
well,
let's win together.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Really good practical
Thank
advice, and I'm sure that there are many couples out there who occasionally have a disagreement who can use those tips.
Thank you.
That's some very helpful info, isn't it, Dora? And honestly, I think it's helpful for all kinds of relationships, even when people are engaged to be married.
Never. Yeah, you're right. I know. I should have been taking notes.
Well, you can always watch the segment again, Dora, because, of course, all our InFocus segments are at our website, infocus.org.au, to watch and enjoy again.
Time for an ad break. Father, I can't connect the dots through the little that I understand. What words can I say to reach you? How can I know that you are there, listening, hearing, caring? My words are broken, weak, and powerless. But I know your power is limitless. What can I say?
Onions add great sweetness and flavour and a good base to any curry. Going to add some ginger, some garlic. Look at that, nice and chunky. So we've got our spices, gives it kind of a Sri Lankan feel. Add some tomatoes, tomato paste, some honey. Roasted vegetables in these kind of dishes are always great. If we add some creaminess to it, and that dish is now finished, ready to hit the table. I recommend you to give it a try, and it's so easy.
Planning your future can be a daunting task. What you want to do, who you want to be, and the road ahead can often be unpredictable. No one really knows what the future holds. Avondale. It's education designed for life.
Hi, welcome back. Let's take a look now at one of our earliest examples of a regular segment we called Freedom in Focus, which looked at religious freedom issues in particular.
Yes, and our first guest on Freedom in Focus was Ken Vogel, who looks in this next video at the issue of religious education in public schools. I'm here again with Pastor Ken Vogel from the Australian Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, talking about religious liberty. How are you, Ken?
I'm very well, thank you, Kent.
Now, Ken, today you're here to talk to us about something that has been quite controversial around Australia, and that's religious education in public schools.
Yes. Yeah, it's causing some angst because parents of children who aren't of a religious bent, they're concerned their children are being sort of put in a back room to twiddle their thumbs, essentially, and they're standing up against that.
Now, understand in Victoria, a group of parents has actually taken the Education Department to court, saying, hey, you know, the religious education curriculum in this state is like a Sunday school, you know, in a government school, and it shouldn't be like that. What's going on there?
Well, that's underway right now, and they're supported somewhat by the Australian Education Union that says that in government schools should be kept secular. And I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case of what really is required. Does the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which is the United Nations covenant that we've ratified in Australia, that allows for parents to actually have their children educated in religion and whatever else, and government schools should be able to provide time for that. Just because it's government doesn't mean it has to be secular. Our Constitution ensures that the government doesn't push religion, okay, but it doesn't mean that it has to be secular, and that's where I would differ with these parents and with the Education Union.
Do you think, Ken, this criticism of religious education in Victoria as Sunday school class, you know, type affairs, is that a fair characterisation of what's going on there?
I don't think so at all. I think the religious education units that have been prepared have been very well prepared. You don't know what happens in Sunday school. Any auntie or uncle might be able to put together something, but this is well prepared curriculum for young people and those who are present it are well trained. So the issue is not that. And it's interesting, the parents are actually themselves, the union might be saying that. The parents are saying...
This parents group.
Yeah, this parents group, but not really saying you can't do religions as such. They're just saying that their children have a problem, you know, and therefore because of that they said it should be some unbiased cultural stuff. And but my problem is, if all of our children are ultimately given this unbiased cultural stuff, what's society going to end up with? Our children need to be given an opportunity to know what they believe and choose, if they choose to believe it, then they can stand up. And I think that if our children are given that opportunity as they grow up, they'll feel less threatened with other people, how they believe, because they're comfortable with their own beliefs.
So if you were the you know, the magistrate at the front of VCAT, you know, the administrative tribunal looking after this, where would you come down on this, Ken?
Oh, that's a bit tough. I'm not VCAT and I'm not a lawyer, but I certainly come down on the side where I disagree with this parent group in the sense of being able to offer religious education. I think we should be able to, but where I agree with them is that they actually should have provision for their children, maybe an ethics class, but the challenge to them is that they should prepare a really good curriculum, get people trained and actually provide for children that like theirs that actually don't want religion. Provide for that at the same time. That's what I think should happen.
Okay.
Great stuff, and still a live issue, hey Ken?
Oh yeah, you're not wrong, Dora. I mean, chaplaincy, religious education, the right of religious schools to not employ, you know, non-believers if they don't want to. They're all still very much hot button issues. Hey, we'll take a break now, but we'll be back in a sec.
We live our lives running around, rarely stopping to ask ourselves where we're going and what our final destination is. In the end, our lives become little more than routine. Step beyond and discover a path that offers comfort, love and hope. Visit hopeoffer.com/step beyond or call 1300 300 389 for your free copy today.
Hi, welcome back. Now, Dora, I have something to confess about my role as producer on InFocus over the years. If I read a book or, you know, sort of discovered someone on a website, you know, that a person who just really amazed me, I thought, wow, I'd love to meet that person. I've got to meet that person. Hey, I can meet that person. So then I just invited them in for an interview.
You're such a stalker. And I suppose our next interview with Ash Barker falls into that category?
Yes, guilty, Your Honour, guilty as charged. I am totally a fan. I really admire how he's put his faith into action, although it does raise some difficult questions. Well, it's a real privilege for me to have in the studio someone who I've looked up to for quite a while, admired from afar, as it were, and that is Ash Barker. Thanks for being here, Ash.
Good to be here, Kent, thank you.
And the reason why I admire you, Ash, is that for the past 12 years, you and your family went to Bangkok, to one of the toughest slums there, and lived there as, I guess, urban missionaries or embedded missionaries, not in a mission compound somewhere else, but right there among the people.
Sure.
What drove you to do that?
The short answer is a sense of call, that after what Jesus has done for us, we want to go and follow and join and participate what's on God's heart. And 1 in 6 people live in slums. And as doors opened up for us after years of experience in Melbourne of working among urban poverty in a different setting, we had the opportunity to go. And it is pretty crazy. I mean, it's 100,000 people in a square kilometre. We lived right in the middle of it with my family. I have 2 kids now, and my wife. And my son Aiden was actually born there.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was challenging. But there's a joy that comes with doing the things that really matter and get a sense of meaning and purpose that I don't think you get unless you risk yourself in these kinds of ways. And And we had the joy of doing that.
So can you paint a picture for me, please, Ash? I just came back from a 1.5 week mission trip to the Solomon Islands, okay? Sure. We were crammed in a little house together, about 17 of us. It was cold showers. My wife had to leave her hairdryer behind. That was pretty tough for us. You've been living in a slum for 12 years. A similar picture, or?
We did have electricity. It was illegal. They'd siphoned it off the mains, so it wasn't always working. I think the open sewers were the hardest things. And when floods come, you would literally kind of open up. And it was really hot. I mean, you just have these living conditions that are just humid and you get sick. So I had dengue fever 4 times in the first 6 months, dysentery, typhoid, typhus. You kind of get the list of them, and then your body kind of adapts to it. My body got a reboot almost, really.
But it's a scary place to take kids, though, isn't it? Because young children often don't have that sort of immunity.
Yeah, although they often can adapt far quicker than adults do. Okay. And that was the case with our kids, whose health was really good most of the time. Yeah, and they've had an amazing experience. I mean, it is one of the questions you always get, how did your kids cope? And actually, as children, they loved it. There were so many kids to play with all the time. It takes a village to raise a child. We had a brilliant village everyone was kind of looking out for our kids.
Well, including what? Brothel madams and organised crime and all sorts of dodgy people. Are they really the sort of people you want your kids to be around?
Well, there are good people in every community, and it takes a while to find them. But because we were seen as doing something good with the community centre we were based at and the social enterprises that got emerged, we got to know who was who, and that was important. And there were kind of people of peace who kind of receive you and you trust them. One of the people that we got to meet her name was Pooh. P-O-O, that was her name. And she was a great cook, and we'd love Pooh food. She'd make this food out the front of her house. But actually the price of rice suddenly went through the roof, and what Pooh was doing very cheap food that everyone could afford, but she couldn't afford to put the prices up, and so she was in quite a lot of desperation. So Ange worked with her, and they started a cooking school. And it became the #1 thing to do on TripAdvisor within 6 months. Wow. And a book got emerged. We got a photographer that came over and took these brilliant photographs of her food, but also stories in the community. And Cooking with Pooh was launched. And actually, someone put it, we still don't know who this person was, put it in the Frankfurt Book Fair. And it won an award, the biggest book fair in the world, for the oddest book title of the year. But for me, the hope in that story and the joy of that is that our families were incredibly tight. And the joy that Pooh has in helping others, and mostly that's what she's done. She's helped start Helping Hands, kind of foundation to help other people start small businesses, and has been incredibly generous with what she's done.
So, Ash, traditionally a missionary has this sort of mission model where you go overseas, you establish maybe a mission school, maybe a mission clinic or hospital, and that's sort of a little compound that you base your mission efforts out of. I get the sense you're much more embedded in the community and a part of it. You're not calling people out of the village to come to your compound.
Yeah, look, in a place like a slum where you've got so many people crammed together, you just can't do a compound. There's just no room for it. Number 2, by working in really informal ways with people, starting small businesses, living among the community, so you get to know who people are and who you can trust and who you can't. Even faith becomes a bit more day-to-day rather than a thing you do just on a Sunday. It becomes a lifestyle because we need Jesus to come in these situations, the things that we're all facing. So I think sharing your life with people is much better than trying to get people to come to your compound. And certainly I feel like Jesus goes before us, that he invites us in and we join and participate and we follow this living Jesus who's there. And so it's really hard to do that if you build lots of barriers and walls around yourself.
So does it work though? I mean, can you give me a list of statistics of baptisms or churches you planted while you were there?
Look, there weren't churches planted, and there was only one church when we started, and there were 5 churches when we finished up our time. There were 17 different entities run by Thai people when we left only a few months ago. And yet there were lots of baptisms, but you don't. For me, I don't measure it by that. They're all good things. The thing for me is, and it's Jesus' prayer, how can God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven? Are we seeing change in this community? Is it becoming more like God's will being done here as it is in heaven? They're more the things you're after than if you can put notches on your belt. And if you come with that colonial style conquest kind of impulse, people will reject you. You will need a compound. But if you come saying God's already at work, how can we join with that? No one's far away from God.
Ash, I think of the rich young ruler. Jesus offered him the opportunity to give everything he owned to the poor and come and follow me, and we're told the rich young ruler went away sad. Okay, Jesus might not ask all of us to give away all our possessions and give to the poor and follow me, but he might ask some of us, and he's asked a pretty tough thing of you. For some of our viewers, watching this, what tips could you give them from a spiritual point of view of if God does put this huge, seemingly unrealistic, impossible hurdle in front of you, a task in front of you, how do you take that on? How do you not go away sad?
Yeah, that's a huge, and that text is such a challenging text for me because no matter how much we give away, and we've given away everything we have and moved twice to do the things we're called to do, but God gives you grace to do it. And I think there is a sense where we have to surrender it. Christian faith is not about how can we get things from God. Christian faith is about surrendering all to God so that God can do through us what God wants done in the world. And so that does mean holding loosely the material things around us that will not last. Houses, cars, boats, those things will be gone one day. But the things we do in faith and hope and love, those things remain. And so it's not worth it, I think, for the destiny that God has for each of us to be so held captive by those things. I'm not saying that's easy. I'm not saying in a materialistic world these things are not challenges, but they're doable and they're possible.
And they're living proof, I guess.
And it's fun. I mean, that's the thing. It's a joy to be able to get to do what we do. It's not... And after what Jesus has done for us, the sacrifices he has done, anything that we do in return is nothing.
True. Wow, that's really sobering for me, despite your joy. Now, if you want to know more about Ash Barker and Urban Neighbours of Hope, which is the organisation he heads up, their website is unoh.org. Did I get that right?
Yes, although I've just resigned from Urban Neighbours of Hope.
Okay.
I'm about to move to the UK.
Oh, you're moving to the UK, but Urban Neighbours of Hope is the organisation you've been with. So, look, it's a fascinating organisation. Check it out. Are there details about this book on there, Ash?
There are, and urbanlifetogether.org has all our latest details in our transition.
So Urban Life Together, there's another website for you. Hope you got your pen and paper there. And Risky Compassion tells your story of being in Bangkok.
In the last 12 years, looking at through the lens of the Good Samaritan story.
Well, so check it out. Thanks so much for your time, Ash. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Man, 12 years in a slum. I don't know.
And he was happy doing it. That's what just blows me away, honestly.
I know. It's so pretty, in your face for the rest of us who call ourselves Christians, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what life changes would you be prepared to make if you were sure God was asking you to make them?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Well, on that bombshell,
nice.
We need to wrap up the program. Thanks for your company. God bless.
We'll see you next time.